Alright guys, so today we're going to talk about pattern mixing again. We're going to kind of expand on the things we already talked about. So last week we talked about neutrals and what constitutes a neutral in pattern mixing, which is namely like checkerboards, stripes, black and white, animal print, all of those are neutrals. Plaid, things like that, those are all neutrals. So today what we're going to talk about is instead we're going to talk about how you can mix and match things that don't fall in the neutral category. So something that isn't a neutral. So all the prints I picked today are not in that neutral category. They're not polka dots, they're not stripes, they're not checkerboard, none of that. And the point was to kind of show you how you mix and match those pieces. The main key here is you're going to look for a dominant and a non-dominant pattern, like an accent pattern. And what you're going to try to do is you're going to combine a dominant pattern with an accent pattern. We're only going to do 2 pieces here, but if you want to learn how to mix 3 different patterns, we're going to talk about that next week. So when you're combining your dominant with your non-dominant pattern, your main goals here are to find a pattern. Your dominant pattern is going to be the bigger pattern, not necessarily larger in scale, but the louder pattern. It'll be either bolder colors, a bolder pattern, it'll be just something that stands out more and draws the eye more. The accent pattern, on the other hand, can be a variety of things. Generally, it'll be a smaller size than the non-dominant or than the dominant pattern. So like, I'll have some examples in a second to show you, but like, say for example, you have like a really big bold paisley, that's your dominant, and then you have maybe like a really teeny tiny little floral, that'll be your non-dominant, your accent pattern, because it's a smaller print, and I can kind of show you that. I actually have a paisley floral combo to share with you. So that's how you're going to look for your dominant and your accent. You're going to look for larger dominant piece. Your accent piece will be smaller generally. And your accent piece, kind of the key to know if it's an accent piece, if someone is standing on the other side of the road from you, if they're going to think that that's a solid shirt you're wearing, it's an accent piece. Because if your pattern is so small that it's, or similar colors that it's running together and looks like a solid, then it is a solid. So I have a few different examples and let's get started with them. So this first one is really fun. This is a large Sarah with, I believe, a large Carly? Extra large Carly. Large Sarah with a extra large Carly. This is an example of a dominant versus a non-dominant. Neither one of these fall in the neutral of a pattern mix, but they work together because the dominant print, or the non-dominant print, is a floral. Let me get it a little bit closer so you can see. You can see it's a floral. It's a really dainty floral, but it's almost tone on tone. It's not quite tone on tone because it's like a burgundy with an orange floral print on it. But from a distance, especially from farther back, you can see how that almost reads like a salad. Like picture if you were even farther away. That would read like a salad. So this is a non-dominant pattern for sure. Great example of a non-dominant pattern. I paired it with this really bold Sarah that's in a large. It's a yellow-based Sarah, so it's going to accent on the orange-red of the Carly really well. More details on color theory coming in 2 weeks. And then it has these like coral and hot pink accents, so they're pulling up, and like orangey bits, so it's pulling up the colors in the Carly. So we have a color that's kind of coordinating between the 2 pieces, and that's why they work. But this is definitely your dominant. It's not going to read like a solid from across the street. This is a very, very dominant pattern. And then this Carly is definitely your accent piece. But they work really well together. You could throw on a little belt for some breaking up the pattern and adding some waist definition. It'd be super cute. So that's one example. The next example I have for you is an even subtler one, because I thought it might be nice to show you guys a super, super, super subtle one. This is one where both pieces would actually kind of work as accent pieces. We have one that is the dominant, but you could actually do either one of these could be the accent piece with another pattern mix. So I have a Lindsay in a large. This one is a jacquard material. It's kind of this corally orangey color, and then it has these gray hash marks across it, little X's. Let me pull it a bit closer so you can kind of see. Yeah, so it has these gray X's, right? And then I paired it with this Amelia that's a 3X, and it has this curly Q print all over it. So the curly Q print is tone on tone, so it reads like a solid across the street. This is going to look like a solid gray. But the same argument can be made for this Lindsay, which is coral and has these gray hash marks, but from across the street, you're probably not going to see that. So it also reads like a solid. But while neither one of these has a traditional neutral, they work really well together because the gray picks up the gray in the Carly, or the Amelia, And they kind of play off of each other really, really nicely. So you don't have to have like a dominant pattern. You can still do 2 accent patterns together and still be pattern mixing, and still have it work really well. In this case, if you had to pick one that was going to be dominant, it would be the Lindsay, because it has a little bit of a bolder pattern than the Amelia does, because the Amelia is so tone on tone. It's really hard to see that pattern unless you're right next to someone. But it makes for a fun pattern mix, and it's a little bit easier for someone who's kind of just beginning to delve into pattern mixing. I love the tone-on-tone prints because they're a way of playing around with a print without really committing to the print. So then the last one I have is definitely the boldest one that we have here. This is going to it has a floral and a paisley that I paired together, but this one is our accent print and this one is our dominant print. This one's the dominant because it's bright red and it has the big purple flowers, big white flowers, green. This is not going to read like a neutral or a solid no matter what you do. This, however, is a paisley, but it's kind of this rusty color with purples and blacks and eggplant all kind of mixed in. So it's pulling out the colors of the flower, but then this rusty color, while it's not the same color as the skirt, it's a similar tone, so it's pulling out the colors of the skirt as well. So this goes really, really nicely because of that. And again, from across the street, you're not going to see that this is a print. This is going to look like a solid from across the street. So to give you guys that a little bit closer up, you can see how it's accenting really, really nicely off of each other. So this one's a really fun one. It's really unexpected. And the thing I like about pattern mixing when you're mixing prints that aren't considered like neutrals in pattern mixing, so you're mixing like a paisley and a floral, the thing that's really fun with that is that think about all the possibilities that you have with your wardrobe now, because this paisley is going to match a million things and this floral is going to match a million things, and then they also match each other, which is kind of cool. And I think once you start thinking about your wardrobe in terms of all of the different combos that you can create with each other, you realize how many outfits you have that you didn't really realize before. And then the last part I was going to show is that, so next week we're going to talk about 3-piece pattern mixing. So combining 3 different prints all in one outfit. I do this from time to time, but it does take a little bit more planning. It's not as easy as throwing everything together because you have to kind of think about your pieces a little bit more. I'll go into more detail on it, but I am actually doing that today. So I have this, which is kind of this like plaid-ish, houndstooth-ish Sarah with a striped Nicole, and then I have Halloween leggings with like castles and birds and stuff. But you can see all of the pieces all at once on my body. It's not like the Nicole hides the Nicole doesn't hide the leggings completely, it's just that I'm short. So I combine 3 pieces pretty often, and I'm excited to kind of share with you guys how you can do that in your own closet if you feel like it. If you want to learn some more, I'm going to have some more info on our blog. It's spiderandcricket.com. And if you want to check out some more combos that we have or ask me questions or anything like that, check out our Facebook community. Facebook.com/groups/LuLaRoe Jenny Myra. Thanks for watching, guys.